Hello everyone, my name is Zishan and welcome to my comprehensive training on cybersecurity. This course is for all the candidates who are aspiring to become a security engineer or make your career in cybersecurity. Today's topic is about CIA threat, the foundational framework of information security. Today, we are going to master three critical principles, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These aren't just theoretical concepts, they are the building blocks that guide every security decision you make in your career. So, by the end of this session, you'll not only understand these principles but be able to apply them to real world scenarios. You'll walk away with practical experience, you could say, practical experience. We will have some labs where you can practice on. So let's dive right in and see what we are going to accomplish in this session. So let me be clear about what you're going to gain from this session. These aren't just nice to know concept. You know, these are career building skills. First, you'll understand the three core principles. But more than that, you'll see how they interconnect and sometimes compete with each other. And secondly, you'll identify threats and vulnerabilities. I'll show you exactly what keeps security professional awake at night and how to spot these issues before they become incidents, right? And the third thing is you learn to implement appropriate controls. Theory is great, right? But we are going to focus on practical actionable solutions you can deploy. And fourth, we'll analyze real world cases. I'm going to share some spectacular failures, right? And what we learned from them. These aren't just interesting stories, okay? They are expensive lessons other organizations learned the hard way. And the fifth is you learn to balance the competing requirements. Here's the truth. The perfect security would make systems unusable. We'll explore how to make smart trade-offs. Okay, there's no 100% security. We have to balance it. We have to make a smart trade-offs. And finally, you'll apply these principles through hands-on exercise. We're not just talking theory today. You're going to do practice as well in the lab. Good. Let's jump into the core framework. Here's the foundation of everything we do in information security. Three principles, each absolutely critical, each with its own challenges, right? The first, coming to confidentiality, it's about keeping secrets a secret. Think about your personal banking information, medical records, or your company's trade secrets. Confidentiality ensures that only authorized people can access this information, right? Imagine if anyone would walk into hospital and read patient's file, or if your competitor would access your product development plans, right? That's what happens when confidentiality fails. You have to keep access control in place, encryption in place, classification, privacy protection. We'll see all these things in details in further slides. They're just understanding the definitions and what is confidentiality. Now, coming to integrity, integrity ensures that information remains accurate and unchanged. What do we mean by accurate and unchanged? This isn't just about preventing hackers, okay? It's about ensuring that when you make a 10K transaction, $10,000 transaction, it doesn't accidentally become $100,000 transaction, right? If you're making 10K transaction, it should be 10K, it should not be 100K. It's as simple as that. Maintaining the integrity, accurate and unchanged information. Like think about Wikipedia. Anyone can edit it, but there are controls to ensure accuracy, version history, editorial reviews, citation requirements. These are integrity controls. Okay, so there are some controls again here in integrity. We call it as data validation, digital signatures, version controls, change management. Again, we'll talk about this in further slides. Now, coming to availability. Availability means systems should work when you need them. Okay, there's a system and it is not working when you require it, then there's no point in having a system, right? Availability means systems should work when you need them. Let's suppose it's 2 a.m. You're having a medical emergency at 2 a.m. and you call 911. That system better be available. If it's not available, then what's the point of having that, right? That is called availability. Here's what's crucial to understand here. These three principles often conflict between them, often conflict. M- Making something more secure might make it less available. Ensuring integrity, let's suppose you're making ensuring 100% integrity might affect your confidentiality and availability, might affect confidentiality more. So we'll explore these trade-offs throughout our session. There's no 100% security for everything. I cannot say this is my system contains 100% confidentiality, 100% integrity, and 100% availability. No, no system, no security system has the 100% thing. So we have to be able to make a smart trade-offs. If I'm making integrity more available, then giving more priority to integrity, then which means I would have to compromise with confidentiality or availability. Compromise in the sense not complete compromise. Okay, you should think of a situation. For example, now you guys can think of a situation where you might prioritize one of these principle over others. What would you prioritize? Now again, if I'm giving you a blank statement telling that prioritize any one of them, you'll not be in a stage to prioritize it. But if you have a situation where you have to prioritize integrity, then you will prioritize integrity. It depends on the situation, making a smart trade-offs. Now, let's deep dive into each principle, starting with confidentiality. Now, we all know what is confidentiality by now, right? Let's you know start with a sobering statistic. The average cost of a data breach in 2024. Okay, I'm talking about 2024. The average cost of this data breach was around 4.88 million. Okay, that's what happens when confidentiality fails. So, confidentiality is about protecting sensitive information from unauthorized access, disclosure, or exposure. It's not just about hackers, it includes preventing accidental disclosure, insider threats, and social engineering, right? Let's talk about how we actually protect confidentiality, right? How do we actually protect? What are the key methods, right? We have access control models, encryption, physical security, administrative controls. So let's talk one by one what each of them has to say, right? Now let's talk about access control model. Think of your house. Okay, discretionary access control is like giving spare keys to whoever you want, which we call it as DAC, discretionary access control. And mandatory access control, MAC. What is mandatory access control? Is like a military base. The system enforces strict rules regardless of what you want. Then we have RBAC. RBAC is nothing but role based access control. Okay, it is like a hospital where doctors can access patient files. You have a hospital and there are patients inside it. There's a room where all the patient file has kept, right? Only doctors have access to that. Janitors, the person who cleans, right? Janitors cannot have access to it. That is role based access. Now, when we go to encryption is your data's armor. AES 256 is a global standard for symmetric encryption. It's a global standard. It's what the US government uses for classified information. When we talk about RSAs, it handles public key encryption. It's what protects your online banking, and there are digital certificates as well. Okay, these are all some of the controls or things we have to take care when we are talking about confidentiality. But don't forget the physical world. Okay, when we come to physical security, don't forget the physical world. I have seen $1 million cybersecurity system defeated by someone walking into an unlocked office and plugging in a USB drive, a malicious USB drive. You have left your office open, there's a system here, and you have left it unlocked. A hacker enters into it, he just plugs in his pen drive, gone, right? In 2017, okay, I'm giving statistics. In 2017, Equifax breach, Equifax breach. This breach exposed 147 million records. The hacker didn't crack unbreakable encryption. He did not do anything. He did not crack any encryption. Okay. They exploited an unpatched web application. Sometimes the simplest vulnerability causes the biggest disaster, which is what happened in 2017 with Equifax breach. Let's talk about what you're prioritizing against. Data breaches make headlines, but social engineering is often more effective. Kevin Metnick, one of the most famous hackers, said he could often get passwords just by calling and asking for them. How is that possible? It is called social engineering. I'm talking things out of a person. Okay, confidentiality protects information from unauthorized access. But what happens when unauthorized users accidentally or maliciously change that information? That's where integrity comes into picture. Okay, that's where we enter into integrity. So we have seen this common threats. Okay, you can see here administrative controls, just NDAs, training, background checks, all these things, the controls we put in to have the confidentiality in place. What are the common threats? I explained you one of the breach, and then this a data breach and unauthorized access, social engineering attacks, insider threats and privilege abuses, and eavesdropping and surveillance. These are some of the common attacks of confidentiality, I could say. And when we tell integrity, when we come to integrity, what happens when unauthorized access, unauthorized user accidentally or maliciously change that information? I'm changing some information. If I'm talking about something change in the information, then it comes to the talk of integrity. So in 2012, okay, in 2012, Knight Capital, in 2012, Knight Capital lost 440 millions. You know, in just 45 minutes. In just 45 minutes, Knight Capital lost 440 million. Why? Due to a software error that sent incorrect trading orders. It was a software error, no hackers involved, nothing, a software error that sent incorrect trading orders. Which means when I tell incorrect, which is an integrity issue, 45 minutes, $440 million. That's what happens when integrity fails. Integrity ensures that data remains accurate, complete, and unaltered throughout its life cycle. It's not just about preventing malicious changes, it's about preventing any unwanted changes, whether from hackers, hardware failures, or human errors. Okay, we are talking about two types of integrity. Data integrity focuses on, when I talk about data integrity, it focuses on information itself, ensuring your customer database shows the right account balance, which we call it as data integrity. Two types. And the second one is system integrity. Now, what does system integrity focuses on? System integrity focuses on the technology front, technology, ensuring your software hasn't been tampered with and your configurations remain secure. Okay, digital signatures are like tamper evident seals for digital information. So if someone changes even one character in a digital signed document, okay, you have a digital signed document. Let's suppose we're talking about digital signatures. You have a digital signed document. The signature becomes invalid. Even one character in a digital signed document changes. It's mathematically impossible to forge. Okay, think of checksums like fingerprint for data. Every file has a unique mathematical fingerprint. If the file changes even by one bit, the fingerprint changes completely. This is how we detect corruption or unauthorized modification. Now, the principle of least privilege. What before we go to this, understand what is principle of least privilege. Okay, it means giving people only the minimum access they need to do their job. If a customer service representative only needs to read account information, they shouldn't be able to delete the accounts. They should be only be able to read the account, account information. In financial institutions, the person who initiates a right transfer cannot be the same person who approves it, right? If someone is writing something, the other person should approve, not the same person should approve. This prevents both mistakes and fraud. It's a simple concept that prevents billions of dollars in losses. Every change to critical system should go through a formal process. Document what's changing, why it's changing, who approved it, and how to resolve it if something goes wrong. Okay, let me give you a real time example. Amazon's famous S3 storage. Okay, Amazon has a S3 storage, right? AWS. Its famous S3 storage in 2017, happened, outage happened because of an engineer mistyped a command during routine maintenance. The outage of an S3 happened. Instead of taking a few servers offline, they took down a significant portion of the internet. Better change management could have prevented this, right? If they would have had a better change management. Now, malware is an obvious threat. Okay, if we are talking about threats, we'll just talk about threats now here in integrity. Malware is an obvious threat, but don't underestimate human errors. Studies show that human error causes 22% of data breaches. Sometimes the biggest threat to integrity is an honest mistake, unknown mistake. We call it as a mistake because I did something unknowingly. That is when we call it as a mistake. Think about your own work environment. What would happen if someone accidentally delete your customer database, right? Do you have integrity controls to prevent that? We'll explore this in our exercises. Now, let's enter into availability. We have protected our data from unauthorized access. We talked about confidentiality. We have protected our data from unauthorized access and unwanted changes as well integrity. But if systems aren't available when needed, what's the point, right? The system should be available. Let's talk about availability now. Now, Amazon loses approximately this much amount, 220,000 for every minute their website is down. Facebook loses about 164,000 per minute. Okay, I'm talking about per minute. Per minute if the website is down. When availability fails, money disappears fast. See how much of the money is getting disappeared. This is for Amazon and this is for Facebook. Now we call this as Meta, right? Not Facebook, Meta. Let's talk about what availability really means in numbers. Okay, 99.9% availability sounds great, right? That's actually 8.77 hours of downtime per year. Hours of downtime per year. For a critical business system, that could be catastrophic. See, you can see the key metrics of the downtimes or the availability, sorry, availability times or the downtime of this. With the availability and the downtime. So 99.99% availability, that's 52.6 minutes of downtime per year that might be acceptable for most businesses systems. Okay, whereas for 99.999%, which is 5.26 minutes of downtime per year, this is what we call five nines. And it's what mission critical systems aim for. Any system which is very critical, mission critical, this is what the availability they expect, 99.999%. And if it is a critical, we go for little lesser, which is 99.99, and the standard is 99.9%. And over the year, for the whole year, I can afford 8.77 hours of downtime. For in standard, in critical, I can afford only 52.6 minutes of downtime, approximately, an hour of a time per year of a downtime. Then, if it is a mission critical, very much critical system, then it is 5.26 minutes of downtime. Let's do a reality check. But here's the reality, okay? Achieving five nines typically cost exponentially more than achieving three nines. You're not just buying better hardware, okay? You're buying redundant everything, backup sites, specialized staff, and complex orchestration systems. Okay, redundancy means having backups for your backups. You have a backup, you have a backup of something, and you are having a backup of a backup. Multiple servers, multiple data centers, multiple internet connections. The idea is simple. If one component fails, another takeovers seamlessly. Now Netflix runs on AWS services. Okay, we everyone knows Netflix. What is Netflix? Right? Now this Netflix runs on AWS. But they have architected their system to survive entire AWS region going offline. They don't just have backup servers, they have backup everything in multiple geographic locations. Now let's talk backups. Full backups, okay, here we have backup and recovery. Full backups capture everything but take time and storage. Incremental backups only capture changes since the last backup, faster but more complex to restore. Differential backups capture all changes since the last full backup, a middle ground. Here's a rule every IT professional should know, which is 3 to 1 backup. Three copies of important data on two different types of media, with one copy stored offsite. Okay, three copies of important data, two different types of media, with one copy stored and offsite. It's simple but effective. 3 to 1 backup. Then we have RTO, recovery time objective. Okay, is how long you can afford to be down, which is called RTO. Then we have RPO, recovery point objective. Is it RPO is how much data you can afford to lose. Here I'm talking about how much downtime I can afford to lose, or how here I'm talking about how much data I can afford to lose. If your RTO is 4 hours and your RPO is 1 hour, you can be offline for up to 4 hours and lose up to 1 hour of data. Okay, that is RTO and RPO. So here I have explained you about this real world case study which was about Equifax data breach in 2017, which comes under confidentiality, where the impact was 147 million personal records were exposed, and the cause was unpatched Apache Trust vulnerability. Patch management is critical for confidentiality. Then night capital trading. This also we talked about in 2012. 440 million loss in 45 minutes. Cause software deployment error causing incorrect reads. The integrity was changed. Change management must include integrity checks. Now, AWS outreach 2017 availability. Millions of website affected for hours. It was a human error. Okay, during routine maintenance, there was some error gone. The change was done or the availability was gone for hours. What was the lesson? Eliminate single point of failure. And we have practical sessions here, practical scenarios. Let's read about this scenario. You're the IT security manager for healthcare organization managing patients record. Okay, let's suppose we are an IT security manager. Very well. Your task, what is my task? Data classification, access control, and encryption strategy. Now, under data classification, categorize patient's data by sensitivity level. I have to categorize the patient's data according to the sensitivity level. Okay, fine. Design role based access for doctors, nurse, and admin staff. Okay, I have to design a role based access. Who should have access to what kind of data? And encryption strategy. Determine encryption requirements for different data states. Okay, how do I encrypt things? What are the encryption strategies? So what I have to consider for achieving these tasks, I have to consider HIPAA compliance, emergency access scenarios, audit trail requirements, patient portal access. Keeping these things in mind, I have to segregate things or I have to plan things. Okay, I would request all to create a plan for this, and you can, or either you can comment on the comment sections your solutions for these things. And remember, everyone has different perspective. come up with your own ideas and try to come and give the solutions in the comment sections. And we have financial services, the practical exercise too. In the financial, we talked about healthcare scenario. Here we have financial services. Okay, in financial service scenario, design integrity protection for financial service companies transaction system. Okay, for transaction system we are designing it. Your task is to threat analysis. I have to do a threat analysis, identify potential integrity threats, control design, implement database and file system protection, and then verification, establish integrity checking procedures. Okay, then what are the requirements I have to keep in mind? Real time transaction validation, daily conciliation process, then regulatory compliance, which is SOC, PCI, DSS, and fraud detection and integrity. So this is one of the practical, I could say, assignment. You could do this and comment on the comment section or create a Word file and send it to me or upload it in the portal so that we can evaluate on this. So these are all scenarios which I am giving you, and we will be doing one of the practical as well. We have a lab where using the link you can access the lab and try to do the practicals. We'll be doing that as well. Now, balancing CIA principles. Okay, there is something called balancing the CIA principle, which we call it as trade-offs. Okay, what is trade-off? By now we should have understood what is trade-off. I just give you 2 minutes to just go through this, a couple of minutes, go through this, or pause the video and go through this slide. Okay, so here's where information security gets really interesting in this sections and really challenging. In the real world, these three principles often conflict each other. When I tell these three principles, what are these three principles? CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These principles often conflict with each other. Your job isn't to maximize all three, it's to find the right balance for your specific situation. Okay. Now, security versus usability. Let's start with the classic conflict. This is a classic conflict. Strong authentication might require user to enter a password, provide a fingerprint, and enter a code from their phone. That's very secure, but it's also slow and annoying. Bank, let's take a real world example of a bank. Banks solve this by using risk based authentication. If you are logging in from your usual computer on your home network, they might just ask for a password. If you're logging in from a new device in a foreign country, they'll require additional verifications, right? Now, perfect security is infinitely expensive and completely unusable. Okay, so your job is to find the sweet spot. Here I'm talking about cost versus protection. Your job is to find the sweet spot where security is proportional to risk. Protecting a public marketing brochure doesn't require the same controls as protecting trade secrets. Okay, and performance versus security. Encryption takes processing power. Okay, so logging takes storage space, monitoring takes network bandwidth. Every security control has a performance cost, and sometimes that cost is significant. And online gaming companies face these constantly. Okay, these things, the strong anti-cheat measures can introduce latency that makes games unplayable. They have to find measures that stop cheaters without running the running the experience of legitimate, sorry, the ruining the experience of a legitimate players. So you can relate if you guys play some games like Valorant, CS:GO, which is a famous right now, which the games which are famous right now. So in complexity versus flexibility, sometimes regulations require specific controls that don't make sense for environment. You still have to implement them, but you can often find creative ways to minimize the impact. Okay. Now in decision framework, we have a framework for decision framework. We call it as a decision framework. So here's how to approach these decisions systematically. Start with risk assessment. Okay. Start with risk assessment. What are you protecting and what are the threats? Understand business requirement. What does the organization actually need to accomplish? Consider your regulatory environment. Okay. What are you required to do? Perform cost benefit analysis. What's the security benefit versus the cost and usability impact? Right. Most importantly, involve your stakeholders input is needed. Stakeholders decision. Security decisions made in isolation often fail because they don't account for real world usage patterns. Okay, let's talk about a quick scenario. You're securing a customer service application. Okay, strong authentication is important, right? But customer service representatives need to access customer records quickly during phone calls. How do you balance security and speed? How would you do it? Let's suppose the scenario is about securing customer service application. A strong authentication is important, right? We have to put a strong authentication. But customer service representative who answer the query of the customers need to access customer records quickly during their phone calls with the customers. How do you balance security and the speed? Think of it. Write down your comments on the comment section. Some solutions might include single sign-on so they authenticate once per shift, per authentication during quiet periods, or risk-based controls that require additional authentication only for sensitive operations, right? Remember, there's no perfect security solutions. There are only solutions that are appropriate for specific contexts. Okay, there's no perfect security solutions. Your job is to understand that context and make informed trade-offs. Now, let's talk about how to implement these principles effectively in practice. Okay, how do we implement this in practice? Now, effective security isn't about finding the perfect solution, it's about implementing multiple layers of protections. So, we call this defense in depth. This is important. Defense in depth, we call it as. And it's based on a simple principle. If one control fails, others will catch the problem. Let's start with you know people, because they are often both your greatest asset and your biggest vulnerability. Security awareness training isn't just about checking a compliance box, it's about creating a culture where everyone thinks about security. Effective training is specific, relevant, and regular. Don't just tell people not to click on phishing emails. This is the common thing we tell. Show them what phishing emails look like and let them practice identifying them. Make it relevant to their job and their life. Good security processes are clear, practical, and regulatory tested. regularly tested. If your incident response plan sits on a shelf and has never been used, it's not a plan, it's documentation. You're just creating an incident response and keeping it in a shelf. That's all. It is just sitting in the shelf. A good password policy doesn't just mandate, it's not just mandate, okay? The password policies. You should keep a complex password. It provides guidance on creating memorable but secure passwords, offer tools like password managers, and includes procedures for when passwords are compromised. Technology should support and enforce your people and process controls. But remember, technology is only as good as its configuration and maintenance. The most sophisticated security tool is useless if it's misconfigured or ignored. So this is our implementation best practices. There's a knowledge check which you can answer these things in the comment. Which CIA principle is primarily concerned with preventing unauthorized disclosures? And this statement, true or false statement, encryption primarily protects data integrity. Is it true? Explain the difference and the scenario. I would want you guys to, go through this and add it to your knowledge check and comment it. And people who are doing a Word document, please try to do a Word document and upload it in the portal. So, what are the key takeaways here? Five essential points for CIA mastery, which is understand the relationships, context matters, layered approach, continuous improvement, business alignment. What are the next steps? Continue your learning journey. Okay, do not stop with this video. I know this is a lot of theory for the beginners who are getting into cybersecurity. It is very much important to understand theory first before we deep dive into hacking stuffs, doing things, how do you hack into some systems, what all you have to do, and all those things. That is the next steps or the next levels. First, we have to understand the basics. Okay, now we have understood completely what is CIA. What you have to do next, immediate actions. If you're working in any environment, apply the CIA principles, conduct a personal security assessment, practice with uh, the provided exercises and scenarios. Okay, now let's quickly jump into our practical part. Okay, let's see. There's a practical which I have. Let me just bring up that link. Okay, now let's come to confidentiality lab. Healthcare data classification. Okay, this is with respect to healthcare. You're the information security manager at Medcare hospital. The hospital is implementing a new data classification system to comply with HIPAA regulations, okay, and protect patients' privacy. You need to properly classify different types of data and implement appropriate access controls very well. Your task: classify the following data types according to their sensitive levels and design access controls for different user roles. Fine. Okay. So I believe we have understood the scenario. We have to classify the records or the data. The first thing, what is the first exercise? Data classification. Classify each data type according to sensitivity level. Patient medical record, diagnosis, treatment, test, and result. How do I classify this? What are the options we have? Should this be classified as public, internal use, or confidential or restricted? Take a time to take a time, few seconds to think on this. If you had said restricted, yes, restricted is correct. Why contains, protected information? Okay, highest sensitivity, sensitivity due to medical diagnosis, treatments, and test results. Unauthorized disclosure can cause severe harm to patients and legal liabilities. Okay, when we are talking about patient name and the contact information of a patient, under what thing I have to classify this? If you tell public, no, it's not public, it's confidential. Okay, personal identifiable information. We also call this as PII, personal identifiable information protected by privacy laws. Less sensitivity than medical details, but still requires strong protection to prevent identity theft and privacy violation of a patient. Okay. Now, hospital staff directory. Okay, staff has there's a hospital staff directory which contains name and departments. So under which category we have to put this? If you tell internal use only, yes, it's internal use only. Useful for internal operations, but disclosure possesses security risk. What kind of security risk? It can be a risk of social engineering, targeting key personals. No direct patient impact, but could facilitate other attacks here. Now, anonymized research data. No patients identifiers. So again, where we can classify this? If you tell internal use only, yes, it is correct. Even without patients identifiers, research data has competitive value and could potentially be re-identified with other data sources. Protects research investments and intellectual properties here. Okay. Hospital financial reports, revenue and expenses. Under which category we can classify this? If you say internal use only, no, you're wrong. It's confidential. So financial informations affects competitive positions, investor relations, and strategic planning. Public disclosure could impact stock price and business relationships. Now, coming to access control design. Select which role should have access to patient medical records. Which role can have access? Attending physicians, yes, they can have access to the patient records. Registered nurse, yes, they can have access to the patient records. Administrative staff, no need. I don't think so. Why do administrative staff need the access for a patient record? Billing department, no. Department does should not have the access for the patient's record. Not even IT support staff, not even research team, not a security guard, not a cleaning staff. Only these two should have. Now, encryption strategy. What encryption method should be used for patient data stored in the database? What should be the encryption? So we learned this in the encryption where we saw this. No, this comes under this can also be classified as integrity where you encrypt data so that the data cannot be changed. What is the standard? It is AES 256. Let's see if we have that in the option. Yes, there we go. We have AES 256. And again, how should encryption key be managed? You can write some answers, things here in the lab, in this lab, and submit. Okay, we got 80%. Why less of the 20% is gone? Because we did not write these two things. Okay, this was the example I showed how to work around the labs. So you can make use of the same link, which is here, to access this lab. Okay, this is confidentiality lab, which I showed. Similarly, you come to integrity lab, work on the integrity lab, try to achieve 100% result here. Okay, you can try n number of times. There's no restriction for this. Okay, you can try multiple times. Integrity lab or confidentiality lab, whatever I showed. And there's one more lab which is availability. Read through the scenario again, read through the exercises, give the right answers, and check for the result. I hope you enjoyed this session. Lot of theory, but yes, it was a good session. Lot of theory, but I hope so next sessions I will come up with more practicals as well in future. Thank you for giving your time. Happy learning.